Do you know how I could make the veil a little better? Cause oh, okay, okay.
Here in a moment. Let me turn on. Okay. Yep. So. Okay. Where is my code? Okay. Where is my pen? Okay. Always keep a backup. It would have been nice if you could get to the goat, but you know, I know you can. All right.
Well, I have
So.
until next week, so maybe,
Yeah, maybe.
hopefully.
All right. So what I'm saying is like, let me file. Let's save this image. Escape. And then so let's pull out a sphere. Dynamis Z sphere. What I'm saying is like for your kind of character, let me open up my reference of him just so I have him to look at as well. So like with a character like this, you want to so BDS, that's your Damien standard. Right, once you get all of those pieces in, let's do a dynamo sphere. Now I'm just gonna geometry. It's divided a couple times. Right, you're gonna want to go to your stroke, turn on your lazy mouse, right, and increase the smoothing, maybe the radius a little bit. Right, you see how much cleaner the right. Let's do the and then the cuts will be so much smoother, so much cleaner. BCB. I'm just gonna do a fake kind of face real quick. Alright. Then we got our brow. He's a little angry. Alright. So what I'm saying is when you're doing stuff like this, I'm smoothing it out a little bit, but I'm gonna go BDS to get my Damien standard out, and then with that I can start to carve in and get those kind of flatter shapes, right? Even with my I can maybe turn it down a little bit, right, for like the nose. He's got that kind of ridge, right? Right, you can see that I'm starting to flatten out. It's kind of like, it's called a planar work, right? Like the different planes of the face. It's very important, right, to get those planes down right. Right, so what do those planes look like? Those planes signify the transition of one shape, right, to another, right? So this one I cut in, right? And then Alt will do the opposite. All right, so I'm just using that to kind of define where all of my shapes would be, right? He's got that kind of jowl, and then he's got his little mustache, all right? And then even with his beard area, right? It's very, very stylized, especially when you're doing stylized characters. They have a lot of shape language to them, right? A lot of it is very, very, very it's a lot of it is very, very like cut in. You can see the plane changes, right? Even his eyebrows, they're not actual, like, it's not like a fur material or anything. It's actually just cut in. So what they're doing is, right, they'll cut in a little bit like this, and then Alt, and then they're doing the opposite, right? So they're cutting in, and then they're doing the opposite to emphasize that cut line that they've got in there. All right, so that's what's going on. And this is probably a different piece of geometry that they're using, right? So they're using their Damien standard very, very well in this one. So cutting in, right? You see that action? And then the opposite to get that plane change. And you can see how much more stylized our character is, right? You can see that, okay, I'm getting these very interesting plane changes. Like I think I've showed you guys this technique quite a few times now, where you're going to cut in on one end, and on the other end you're going to Alt, and then you're going to use that to pull out that. So it's giving you, right, you can see that plane change, that change in direction, the change in form of the character. All right, so this is kind of what you're looking for. Does that make any sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So you want to ooh, that was nuts. You really want to get that in there where you're cutting into your character. Right, I think his is more like this. All right, smooth it out a little bit, and then it's probably got. Right, you really want to define those shapes. You really want to get those in there. Right? Every time you see like a harsh line or a line change, you want to imitate that. Right? And that will really start to help you sell your characters. It'll help sell, at the very least, it'll help sell this style that you're trying to go for. Right? Alt. Right? And then to emphasize it more, you're cutting in a little bit more. Right? So that's the idea for this. And then for the cloak, is that what you're saying? Like the
the veil.
The veil or whatever. All right. So what I would do is, let's mask this off. Subtools, right? Like you've got a good base to it. You just need to kind of sculpt it out a little more. So I'd extract mesh, and then let's see what this gives us. Oh, this is not bad. We probably need a little bit more thickness. Let's do 0.03. Let's do 0.1. See what we get with 0.1. It might be crazy. Okay, actually it's not crazy. Alright. So what I'll do is I might smooth it out a bunch. Extract. Let's go crazy on the smooth. Extract. That's not bad. And I'm going to accept it. And it's going to add it as like a subdivision. Alright. So I can smooth. Let's smooth this out a little bit. Then remove that. All right, smooth this out a little bit. Smooth. BMV, that's my move tool. Right, if it's kind of drapey. All right. A little drapey-ish. All right, we've got our piece here. And I've got a lot of these jagged edges, right? Got a lot of these jagged edges. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go into your geometry. ZRemesh it. Let's leave it at the same. And then I'm going to keep my groups, which is going to keep all my poly groups. I'm just going to ZRemesh it. It's going to give us something smoother, something a little cleaner to work with. You see that? You see how much cleaner this geometry is? All right, so now when I smooth it, I'm going to get a much cleaner, much smoother piece of topology to work with. All right, I'm going to turn this off now. And now what you're seeing is some of these creases that you're trying to create. So let's go here. Let's pull this out a little bit. All right, let's pull this. All right. Same idea, BDS, which is your Damien standard brush. And then you can use that. That's going to cut in. Alt, right? To get some of those. So you can cut in. And then the opposite is also true when when you do that opposite kind of effect. So I'm just going to cut into this like so. Maybe smooth this out a little bit. And then I can use this to kind of start cutting in. All right. What kind of fold am I looking at? All right. So a lot of the work is going to be done with just Damien standard. Right. I've got it at a 15 intensity. I've also got my lazy mouse on, smoothing up, radius up a little bit, and then I'm just using that to carve into this guy, all right, to get me some of those kind of long flowy bits that they've got going on in here. All right, does that help?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So yeah, that would be my advice: is get your Damien standard game on. Just go through your model, because your model's pretty decent right now, right? Like now I would go in and kind of clean it up. All right, another thing you can do is, if you're having trouble kind of like flattening areas, BFA or BF, yeah, I thought it is BFA. Okay, flatten. You've got a flatten brush. It'll help you make planes out of some areas, right? You can use that to flatten areas, right? If you need to. Does a pretty good job of flattening stuff. So use that. All right. Let's move on. All right, cool. Good stuff. Nothing. Okay. Vanessa, this is cool. Let me see what we're missing. Yeah, this is good stuff. I did post a video of the hair tutorial as well. This is really good. And then I'll just maybe do a small poly paint, and then this guy should be good to go. This is good. My goodness. The only shitty part of this is the render. A better render would really take this to the next level. This is nice. Let me see. Let me look at the reference. Yeah, you weren't even working with a lot, so. Okay, you're maybe missing these little hair clips in her hair. Need even the purse of the lips is a little good. This is good. Good stuff. All right. Yeah, like I said, next thing you're going to do is for these kind of renders, right? Okay, so I don't know if I showed you. This might have been like the first couple of classes that I showed how to do this. But whenever you're doing these renders for me, right, you want to do a BPR render. Right, it's going to enhance the shadows and all that fun stuff. But before you do that, you want to go up to your render settings up here, and then you can change it to best. And you can really start to get some of those shadows. Also, your background is, that gradient is super ugly. Like it's a super stupid background. What you want to do is go into your document, and then I just realized mine does that automatically now. You want to remove the range. You want to take the range. So your range is probably somewhere right there. Take the range down to 0. I did not realize. I think my settings saved. Okay, cool. That's the first time ZBrush has ever done that. It saved a setting. Jeez, okay. All right, yeah, so just do that. Make sure your background is even, and then do that BPR render, right? I would go through the BPR passes and stuff like that, but just doing a solid, like, BPR render will take your model a very long way. All right. Good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Yeah. So the next steps for you would be poly painting and then rendering with decent lighting. All right, Kayla. Okay. We talked about this last week. Okay, this guy could use quite a bit of work. I don't even know what I'm looking at anymore. Yeah, with stuff like this, like you can... Symmetry's your friend. Right? Just imitate the strokes that you're seeing and you'll get much further along. Right? Like, just looking at this guy... Go subtool. Let's go here. Take this. I'm going to append another sphere just so I could show you how I would go about this guy. Right. So with something like this, this guy's not even using Damien standard like that, right? Like I showed you how to do some of the mechanical parts, but like geometry, maybe even divide it one time and then X on your keyboard, and then BCB, that's your clay buildup, and then it's just all like clay work. So like let's go stroke. I'm going to turn on lazy mouse, increase my lazy radius, my lazy smooth, and then, let's first BMV, the move tool. All right, increase the move tool a lot, just so I can start to get, all right, he's kind of got this kind of oblong head, all right, so you would just pull that down quite a bit, making sure you're getting your proportions kind of right. Like this, at this portion of modeling anything, right, you're just really kind of pushing and pulling the geo. You're making sure you're getting the geometry close to right. He's kind of got this weird looking head, right? The skull, the cranium, you're pulling that stuff out, and then he's got that apparatus that's stuck to him, right? So, and then BC, B. There's a few ways you can attack something like this. Right? There's a few ways. One way is you go, right, he's got these like little things on top of his head. Right? This is me like if you were going to do it in like an hour. Right? And you weren't right super confident. You would just go in and just be like, all right, just start laying markers down as to where you're seeing stuff. Right? He's got this kind of number going, and I feel like this guy was just kind of free flowing whenever he modeled this or he sculpted this. He's got this like interesting eye, and then he's got BMV. He's got this kind of pugnacious nose that kind of pulls up, right? And then the mouth, right? He's got these kind of insets in here. Smooth this out. Inset, right? Smooth it out. And then BCB, got our clay buildup brush back, right? And then maybe shift to smooth that out. Maybe reduce the intensity a little bit, right? We're just sculpting. We're kind of free flowing is what I kind of feel like this guy kind of did with this. And then he's got some, you know, some more pieces like that. And then something like that. Alright. Then maybe he goes Damien standard. And then a lot of this is, before I even go any further, I'm going to Z remesh it. I'll do the same Z remesh, and this will give me a better flow of the topology itself. Alright. So let's go BCB. Let me finish out some of these markers. So he's got like maybe like another eye thing up here, and then one more up here.
Be right back.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So do something like that. And then BDS. Then you can really start to draw out all the stuff that you see. And a lot of the stuff that you're looking at is like more like cavity map work. Right? So he's got a lot of cavity maps doing the work for him. Alright. And he's got those little eyeballs in there, so maybe you're going in, you're using this to carve out some more of this stuff. Alright. You're just using that as like a little template, you know? It doesn't have to be too crazy. Just like when you're doing these, like, you know, the thing is, like, I understand, because like I used to do like one of these a day, like for a long time, and then I was required to do a bunch at a time, and then I did it for work for a long time. So I understand that it's not easy to just get into that, like, oh, I know, you know what you're doing, because a lot of you guys are still in the phase of, first you got to learn the software, then you've got to, you know, be proficient at sculpting. So you're learning a lot of things at the same time, right? So like maybe he's got these little eyeballs in here. So I understand where you guys, you know, like it can be hard, but the only way you're going to get there is if you kind of practice this stuff. All right. So that's even before I even start. So let's Z remesh it again. Let's divide, Z remesh. And this should give us some better topology. Clear up some of these jaggies that's going on right there. Alright, so help us. So then BDS. Then I can use that to start to kind of carve out some of these things that's going on. BCB. Alright. DS. All right. Alright, so with something like this, like you can really get really far with just, right, like your Damien standard, a couple of brushes, right, he's got like some, then he's got like some noise and stuff that's going on here, right, but you know, this is what, 10-15 minutes and you can really start to get some interesting things going on in your sculpt. And then as usual, right, give me a nice BPR render, right, you can really start to, then you just append the apparatus or whatever it's called on, and then keep it moving. All right, good stuff, good stuff. That would be my approach to something like this, right? Damien standard for a lot of it, right? You can Damien standard the crap out of this bad boy, right? Very simple, easy way to really get these pieces in there. All right, all right. Let me not dwell on one piece. One piece. All right. What would I do without you? To make my jokes punchier. Thank you. All right. Alexander, who's next? Let's go to Haley, then Carlin, then McKinley. Update, please. Brianna. Update, please. Madison, update. Emmy. This is a good attempt at the drapery. Looks a little convincing. Have we gotten any more of this bad boy done?
I'm currently still working on it right now.
Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. Update would be appreciated whenever you get a chance, so I can give you some feedback to help you along the way. Did we talk about the horns and stuff? Like, did I show you?
Yeah, that's pretty much what I've been doing since then. I pretty much separated everything as far as like the horns, the ears, and
Awesome.
the spines and stuff on their shoulders.
Awesome. 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 Cool stuff. Cool
Although
stuff.
I will ask, maybe if like a demonstration of how to like do her scales on her face.
Ooh, scales on the face. All right. So we've got a character. Let's go to our ZBrush, and then let's go to Lightbox here. Let's pull up a demo head of a female. And then what I'll do is, so imagine, I'll go to geometry, and we'll divide it a couple times. All right. So what you're going to want to do is first divide it a couple of times, and then, so let me pull up her reference, just so I can show you, so you can see what we're working with. Okay, it's ooh, this is tough because it's like part scales. I don't know. Is it scales or is it makeup? I don't know. All right, we'll treat it like scales for the sake of this tutorial, we will treat it like scales. So what I'll do is I've got my symmetry turn on, BCB, and then that doesn't really matter. I'm just going to hit control, and then I will use that to draw a mask. And then I'll draw another mask. And then I'll draw another mask. And then I'll draw another mask. And I think you get where I'm going with this. I'll draw another mask. And then I'll draw another mask. Draw another mask. Alright. So the cool thing about masks is if I hit control, I can invert it. But if I hold down control while I'm in here and I click on the mask themselves, you can see what it's going to do is it softens them up a little bit. Can you see that? So you can really start to differentiate between harder and softer of the scales based on how you do it. And then if I hit control and alt at the same time, I can erase some of my masks.
Gotcha.
So you can do all of this, right? This is easy enough. And then same tool, you would go to your subtool and then you would just hit extract. Right, so that's a little high. So I'd go maybe 0.01. All right, extract it like so. This is fine. Actually, let's increase the smoothing and then extract. And then I'll accept it. So this is fine for now, right? Hers are kind of like more flat, right? So I'm just going to shift smooth, right? You can see what that does. All right. So, and some of them look like they're kind of pulled up a little bit. So we can use either our BMV, so which is our move tool, right? We can use that to pull some of these up if we want to. So they're a little raised from her skin. If you don't like that look, that's up to you. You can control Z that, take it back, right? So you can start to build on some of those scales. So if they're actually scales, right, I'd go BDS, which is my Damien standard tool. And then, right, if they're supposed to be scales, right, let's make them into scales. I don't know if they're scales. They look kind of like makeup to me, but you can interpret it either way, I think. Right? So we can really start to and then BCB, if you want to maybe flatten some of these edges down a little bit, right? Alt, and then you just use that to flatten some of these edges down a little bit. Shift to smooth it out. Shift BDS. Alright. So you can really start to get kind of like that scaly, I would obviously, take the time to massage it a little bit more, but this is a good way to get your pieces started. Then you can go back to this one, control, and then maybe do a secondary layer, right? You just kind of layer them on top of each other, doing like 3 different passes of those scales. All right, does that help?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. We have addressed the scales, and like I said, you can use let's see, B curve alpha. Control. All right, so using your curve alpha, all right, let me show you another way to do some of these horns. Let's go geometry. I'm going to delete lower. And then we can use that. Let's do curve tubes. You can use these to kind of start to create, if you don't want to use the mesh itself, all right, you can use this to create some of the horns that you see.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So if you don't want to use, if sometimes trying to use the mesh itself for everything can be a pain in the ass, right? If I'm being honest with you, right? So, and what's affecting the size is the width of my brush. So if I have a medium sized brush, right, I can do a horn like that, right? I can do a horn like that, and then I can still move some of these points out of my mesh.
Okay.
Right? So we can really start to, you know, do some really fun stuff with our mesh. Does this help?
Yeah, very much.
Okay, cool. Cool. And then whenever you're done, right, and you have your subtool or whatever, you can shift to smooth, right? Shift to smooth the ends to get the points to be pointier.
Okay.
All right. So I would just follow the pattern of your mesh, and then get yourself some nice horns.
Okay.
All right. And remember, I will post this video as well, so you'll have it to kind of refer back to as well. All right. All right.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you.
No worries. Yeah, I kind of wanted to make this kind of like a show day, so like I can go through everybody's pieces and then kind of give some better feedback for you guys. All right, let's see who we got left. Frankie. Okay, let's get an update on this guy so I can know where you're really at, and I can probably help you a little more. Diego. Okay, let's get an update. Oh, okay. No, you do have an update. All right. Okay. So we talked about the rock features for this bad boy. All right. So for this guy, let me take a look at my reference here. All right. It's going to be a similar kind of workflow. Like what you'll realize is a lot of the workflows, they kind of lead into each other and they kind of work for each other. So if I wanted to do kind of like a crumbly rock or something for her or for him, I would go here. I'd go BST. That's my standard brush. And then what I'm going to look for is maybe like an alpha crack, right? Because you're doing your cracks by hand right now. And there's a lot of procedural ways that you can do that crack. So right now I've got it set to dot. What that means is I will just draw dots on here. I feel like I showed this last class, but maybe I need to show it again. All right. All right, so let's say that, you know, I want to make it look like her skin is cracking. Instead of this is the stroke type of brush that I'm using. Instead of this dot stroke, I will either use freehand, it's okay. But the best result you're going to probably get is drag rectangle. What that allows you to do is drag the alpha out onto your piece. Right? This alpha is alpha 22. You can probably find some like better ones online, but like as a starter, right? Like this is a really great starter. And right now it's set to add. What we want to do is we want to do subtract. And then we're going to do that with this, right? You can see how we start to get some of that organic looking fractal cracking on the skin. And then we can go in and assist, right? So we'll go BDS, yes, we'll go Damien Standard. And then we can use that, right, to kind of start adding a little more emphasis to some of these. All right, we can use that to add it, because what that does is it's gonna sharpen it, because it starts off generally very soft, but we can easily, right, use that as our starting point to create some more natural looking rock formations and stuff like that. All right, and then you can even go in and then use these as either your alphas, but instead of that, let's not do that. All right, I'm gonna append. Let's do an append, and then let's maybe, there's a few ways you can start this. Cube is probably easiest. Let's do a cube, because I want to show you how to do like chipped edges. So I've got my cube here. I've got my cube. What we're going to do with our cube is we're going to go to the geometry. I'm going to turn off smooth. I'm going to divide it once. I'm going to turn on smooth again. All right, let me explain what that does. I feel like, I'm not going to say it. I feel like I've explained it before, but I'll explain it again. So whenever let's go back one. This is our original cube. What I did was I turned off the smoothing feature so that instead of smoothing it while it's adding more geometry, it just adds more geometry. And in 3D, when you add more geometry, what that's going to do is it's going to lock your edges together. All right? So let me Control Z this so you guys see what I'm talking about. So if I hit smooth, you can see when I start to divide, you see how soft my edges get initially? I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to Control Z this a couple of times. I'm going to turn off smooth. I'm going to divide it again. And you can see I've added more geometry, but my edges stay the same. The reason is when I eventually do turn on my smoothing and I divide it, you can see that the level of smooth for the object is a lot tighter, right? That's called locking your loops. You're adding locking edges, so it's essentially hardening the edge up a little bit while it's doing that smoothing operation. All right, let's turn off the floor. I don't want the floor in here. All right, the reason is, so this is kind of like, I don't want to say old school technique, but this is a technique that's been around for a very long time in the animation industry. And what this is this is how you would go about creating like stone kind of hard edges, or like a brick, or like rubble. Like if you have like a scene that has rubble in it, and this is how you would go about creating like chip damage onto it. There's procedural programs that can do that now, that'll take whatever object you have and run a bunch of filters, and it'll give you some of those edges. But the way we did it back in the day, and it still works today, is BCB, right? That's our clay buildup tool. And then you just want to you just want to damage these edges, right? You just want to start damaging those edges, right? Alt, right? And what that's going to do is it's going to give you the look of like this has been worn, right? Damaged, beaten up. Let's go B. The clay buildup does a really good job too. So I'm going to use my clay buildup. You can see that it starts to look like, man, this thing has gone through something, right? This is also a good way to kind of generate or make some crystals, right? You make all your hard edges and you give it that kind of beat up look, right? So now I go from like a perfect cube to something that looks stylized, like it's been beat up a little bit, right? So this is the idea right here, right? You can see that we quickly went from something that's very natural, organic, that now it looks like, okay, this thing's been through some stuff. All right. All right, I'm just holding down Alt on my keyboard and then using that to kind of smash up the edges a little bit. All right. So now we've got something like that, but then on top of that, BST, our standard, right? We can use that to then maybe add, let's see, where's our, I don't have any of that as an alpha right now. Maybe we'll do this. Let's do intensity. Maybe this. It's too organic looking. Looks too natural. Yeah. All right. Or if you want to add some cracks to it, some damages. Right? These are just procedural. I mean, these are just the ones that are in there by default. I've given you guys a bunch of them. So like if I even went and let's see if I can find one of mine that I can bring in or something like that. Let's see, where are my alphas? Oh, this is nice. All right. So I'm going to import some of my alphas in here. I can show you how you can start to really, get really far. So I've got some of these grunges. I'm going to bring all of them in. All right, it's going to take a moment. All right. So let's get my grunge map on. So if I have one of these grunge maps, I can really start to get some rubble, boulder looking kind of stuff in here. And I created these inside of Substance Designer, right? And we can start to really use these to make our stuff look like stone, right? And these are just alphas, right? This is just alpha work, right? Okay, here's another problem. You see this? This is a high valence point, right? Because of that, whenever we do our information, right, it's gonna get us some weird artifacting. Does anybody know how to solve it?
Remesh.
Smart guy. There you go. Same ZRemesh that bad boy, and then it should take care of that. So, a lot of this is you're doing the same thing over and over again, right? You're building on information, right? That smoothed it out a little bit. Now I can go back. You're adding a variation of information that you have. You're adding, you're variating, you're going over, you're doing it in layers, right? So you can really start to get some interesting looking stuff really, really quickly, right? very, very quickly start to get some interesting looking stuff. All right. So if I was doing something like that, so let's go B, C, L. It's our clay. All right, so if I wanted to do something like the extra rubble, all right, I'm just gonna, it's gonna go hard. All right, you beat this bad boy up, you get a different shape. All right. All right, if you were trying to do the rubble for the character, because what we're trying to do is make those kind of procedural, or those kind of, those falling rubble, or the pieces breaking away from our character or whatever, right? I'll turn this into some sort of boulder, right? Maybe even BMV, right? Use the move tool, increase the size quite a bit, right? So that we can start to get something much more interesting, like it's like a piece of boulder. BCL, and then we can use that to really beat up our boulder over here. All right, so I'm starting like I'm starting big, right? Big shapes, big moves, big damage. All right, big moves, big damage, big effects. Then you go smaller, medium, right? What are the medium ones? Medium ones are, you know, little chips, little damages here and there, right? So you're going BST, right? You're using your drag select, then you're using it to create right, some medium damage. BDS, your Damien standard to emphasize BFA, flattens your friend. All right, you're just flattening some of this out. You flatten out some of this information. And then if you want to go, right, after your medium amount of detail that you've got in here, then you'd go in and then BST, you'd go in and add some of your more granular detail, right? All right, so it's 3 different levels of this that you're doing, and that's pretty much everything. All right, like that's pretty much you're kind of layering stuff on top of each other. You're layering detail, you're layering information, you know. That's the idea. Layer upon layer of detail, information that you can then build upon. Alright. And you can get something interesting looking. And you can use this same procedure for like crystals and stuff like that as well. So yeah, I'm not cutting into this. The moment I get to this point, I'm not cutting into it. So BSL maybe. BCL. Maybe if I want to, you know. Shape it up a little bit more. All right. Does that help you out a little bit?
Yeah, it helps a lot.
Yeah. So yeah, and then you can control. Oh, let's delete the lower subdivisions. All right. Duplicate it around. All right. All right, make some of these bigger, smaller. So that's the idea. You have the freedom to kind of do whatever you want. All right, let's see who else is left. Let's do a quick BPR render. Right, remember, always end your stuff with good BPR renders. That's what you send out. All right, let's take a look at Jordan. Good stuff. This is cool. Like I say, same thing. BPR render, remove the gradient background, and we'll see what it looks like. All right, this is good to start poly painting on. All right, Luis. I'm not here. Yeah, this is good to start poly painting on. Let me see. Let me look at the character one time. Okay. I don't know if I should go into this. Yeah, you've got a little bit of the swoopy on there too. You could benefit for like, yeah, no, this is good. Just move on to the poly paint and then you should be good. All right, this on the other hand, I want to say this is Blender. So I don't know if what I'm about to say will even apply. But she does have this fur on. Alright? And in ZBrush, you can do fur relatively easily. Alright, so let's make alright, so I've got all of these. Right, this was something I might not have showed you guys how to do yet. I doubt I've showed you guys how to do it. So what I can do is I can split all of these. So I can split them using their groups. And then what that's going to do is it's going to isolate all of them for me. Alright, so now what I want to do is I want to make these horns kind of fuzzy. Alright, so I'm going to go to my light box here. And we're going to go into our fiber mesh options. Alright. So let's go recent. Let's go to fibers. And then we can start looking at what fiber mesh would look like on some of these. Alright. Let's see which one would be a funny, furry. Let's see. Alright, this one's cool. Alright, so the cool thing about fiber mesh is if you scroll down here, right, you have options to control the way the fiber mesh looks. Alright, so fiber mesh right here. Right now we've got our preview. You don't want to accept it yet. You want to click on the modifier for it, and then you can certainly affect the length profile of the mesh. You can reduce the coverage. You can reduce the length, right? So now we can kind of have this kind of interesting looking fur. It'll kind of make the character look kind of cool. I'll say that. So she's kind of got these very interesting looking fiber mesh fur. All right. You can affect the color, the profile here, the color profile, the radius. You can change the root scale size, the tip size. So you really have control over everything. So maybe I'll reduce it to something like this. Length. Alright. And then you can change the color however you want to. And the tip maybe something like that. And then you can also do that for the character's head as well. So let's turn this off. So now I'm just going to control here. Alright, we can use this to paint. So we're going to paint this mask. And wherever we paint our mask is where our hair is going to be. Alright, so we can use this as quick hair. Right? Right, okay, and if you guys are probably like, why the hell didn't he show this to us before I did all my hair stuff and sculpted hair? Well, the reason is because this is very, very intense when it comes to your CPU's power. So it requires quite a bit to do fiber mesh hair. And you have to kind of know how to accept it and then use it at its lowest form. So like, let's do her hair. We'll do her eyebrow second. So maybe we've got her hair like so, and then we'll go light box, fiber mesh, and then we can do something like that. Maybe we give her a cool fro or something. That works. There we go. She looks like she'd murder you. And you can definitely style it as well. So let's do a short and wavy. Alright, so you have a lot of options when it comes to the fiber mesh. And then like I said, you can increase the gravity or reduce it so that she's got a thunder hair, or increase it so it falls. Right, falls on her like so. Reduce the length profile. Increase the amount of fibers she has, so now it looks super weird. But let's see. Green hair. Let's do this, and then let's just reduce the length. She's got like some really cool fro going on here. Alright. And then if you like what you see, you can accept it. But it's going to accept it as a fast preview. All right. Yes. And what that's going to do is it's going to activate it as like a lower resolution version of the mesh that you have. So we can go to our subtools. Let's turn back on our character here. All right. And then, so let me solo this for a while. So now if I want to create another one, I'm going to have to remove my mask, and then I can use this to like create her eyebrows. We can give her a mustache if we want, but that'd be cruel. But we can definitely give her eyebrows using fiber mesh. I'm not a fan of fiber mesh because of how much, like, you're not bringing fiber mesh into your game, right? Like, it's a very like concept arty kind of thing to use. That's why, oh yeah, here we go. This is what she really was missing right here. Alright? Nothing says wise like eyebrows that go down to your knees. Let's see.
Don't forget the eyelashes.
Yes. So, let's do, yeah, I think this one's short. Did you choose short and wavy? Oh, wow. That is thick. Alright, so let's do the one we were going to do, and then we just go back into our fiber mesh settings, and like I said, reduce the length profile quite a bit, and you'll get something way more interesting. Alright. And then you can accept it. Yes. So now you've got your, but like if you look, like it's individual strands of hair. Like, don't do that. Like for looks purposes, like cool. But this is not practical in any kind of production environment. Right, so. And then if you want to do like a quick, like I said, finish with a BPR render, and you're good to go. All right. So as you can see, whenever you do your BPR render, it's going to render out like the best looking quality version of it. All right. So, yeah, that's hair, that's masking, that's alphas. Man, I don't know what else I can show you guys. Let's see, Lucy. Okay, this is good. Looking very bug-like. I like it. Hopefully some of the stuff I've been showing today can kind of help you. Yeah, you could use a little bit of like Damien Standard for your stuff too, but this is a really good start. I feel like you use the snake hook tool for this one. I could be wrong, but yeah, I would separate some of these pieces out too, right? Like you can just break these off as their own individual things, and that'll go a long way. Yeah, it looks good though. It's a good start. Cool. Do you have any questions for me? Do you need help with anything? Do you want me to show anything?
Sorry, I was.
It's okay.
The antennas.
The antennas, yeah. Okay, yeah. The antenna, like I showed earlier.
Yeah, with Emmy.
Yes. But I recorded everything, so you can watch it as well. You can use that same portion of that.
Yes, I feel like I'm finally starting to get a good grip of like ZBrush actually, when like I feel like half of the class I was just like trying to figure out the software.
Yeah, and that's, like I said, that's that's the sucky part of classes like this is by the time you get in, like at the end of it, when you feel more comfortable, you've just learned the software. You just learned how to move and turn and, alt move or alt zoom in does this. So like, I feel that. And then you can start getting into the artistry of creating art from it. So, all right. Cool.
Exactly.
Yeah, cool. Let me see. Who else is left? I don't know if there's any other. Yeah, so this is tough because this is more modeling. This is more like polygonal modeling that it's gonna take to do something like this. And like I showed earlier, you can use alphas for some stuff, but like it's only gonna get you so far. So like, let's go BST. Go intensity. Reduce this. But yeah. All right. So let's see who else. That's me. Well, I'm probably not gonna do a demo of my stuff because I've kind of showed everything that I need to show you guys for your stuff, and I'm pretty sure you guys have a ton to do from there. But yeah. Does anybody have any other questions for me? Does anybody want me to demo anything that you're confused about? No? Okay, that's fine.
Nothing from me.
Alrighty, Roo. Alright, I'm gonna stop the recording now of this, and then I'll post this for you